only mode.
I'd like to welcome you to this webinar today. My name is Bill Baker. I'm with Firestorm, and this is part of the Crisis Coach webinar series that is presented by our good friends at RenWeb. Today we're discussing the evolution of monitoring. We're looking at social media and ways that we can protect ourselves there. We'd like to also have you become our friend on Facebook, Firestorm Solutions. Follow us on Twitter at Firestorm Soul. And yes, there's a hashtag. The hashtag is Crisis Coach. Firestorm transforms crisis into value and empowers you to manage risks, crisis decision support, communications, public relations, and consequence management. We'd like to remind you, though, that the presentation today is not complete without the accompanying oral comments and discussion, and this work product should be discussed in conjunction with advice from your organization's personal counsel. In addition, do not interpret this information as legal advice or legal opinion. Scott Smith is with us today. He's with RenWeb. Scott, over to you for some comments.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, again, I just want to welcome everybody on today's call. And again, RenWeb's involvement with Firestorm is an absolute plus win for RenWeb in general. So just, again, thanking everybody for being on the call today, and then thanking Bill and Karen for having us.
We lost Bill there, I guess, unless he's talking to me.
I was expecting more from Scott. Okay. Our presenter today is Karen Masullo. She's the Chief Intelligence Officer at Firestorm, also an Executive Vice President. She has extensive experience in social media monitoring, putting together reports, training people, and all of these wonderful things. Karen, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. And hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today, taking time out of your schedule. I hope we're able to shed light on what Firestorm has been doing with our school clients and our business clients as well when it comes to monitoring. And we're going to talk about monitoring specifically on social and traditional media and how that fits in with something we call BRSA, which is Behavioral Risk Threat Assessment. It's a program we've worked on for many years and have formalized and feel pretty good about its effectiveness. And social media monitoring and monitoring in general runs all through that program. So I think if you've attended our sessions in the past, you've heard the brilliant Tim Satterfield talk about this subject. And so I'm hoping that this makes sense in the context and in light of what Jim has said in the past. If you've missed any of those sessions, you can visit our website under the Resources tab. You can find briefs and documents summarizing any past session that we've done. Also, you can visit our YouTube channel, which is linked from that same area, and view any of the other 10 sessions that we did this year, the session we'll be doing now, and next month when we wrap up the year, and we look forward to a very fruitful 2017 with our friends at RenWeb. All right, folks, the first thing that we really need to talk about, if you're sitting in a room right now with other people, take just a moment and look at each other and ask each other, what keeps you up at night? What are you worried about right now, today? On the right-hand side of your screen, I think it's on the right-hand side of most of your screens, you have the GoToWebinar menu bar, and in that is a chat function. And if you have any comments throughout the session, or if you'd like to answer a question that I posed, theoretical or not, you can use that chat function and type in, and I will either get to the question during the session, after the session I'll respond to you. And it's just really helpful for us to see some of your input. So what threats worry you? Go ahead and let me know about that. And I'll tell you what some threats are, some schools are worried about. We did a survey earlier in the year of businesses and schools. And in our schools, we surveyed 484 participants. And we said, are you concerned about violence in your school? Now, there's a very teeny percentage, less than 1%, that said, no, never going to happen. Those people need training. They're in disaster denial. You can train them as much as you want, but I don't know if you're going to change their mind, but at least get them to where everybody's on the same page as far as protocol. A very small percentage, also less than 10%, we're not too concerned. The rest of you, however, and you are my people, were somewhat or very concerned about the threat of violence within their organizations and their schools. And for you, we really appreciate your due diligence in making sure that your students, your employees, your teachers, your parents, visitors to your campus, and your community at large are safer because you're aware of what is going on in your region. And you are aware of the warning signs that are issued prior to an incident. In almost every disaster or incident of violence or an act of terrorism, there were warning signals. And so we at Firestorm work very hard to work with you to understand how those warning signals may be uniform across all schools or across a group of type of schools, but also how they may be then more specific for a specific geographic region, a town, or a city. Everyone has their own specific nuance of issues. And after an issue that we've seen, after every incident of violence, we always see these kinds of things evolve afterward. I reported it, but no one did anything. I knew something was going to happen. You should have seen the type of stuff the person was posting on social media. I knew something wasn't right. I don't understand it. He was always such a nice guy. Don't we always see this? And after an incident, don't we always see on traditional media, suddenly everybody goes to the person's Facebook page and says, oh, heck, it was evident. Look, you know, he's been posting about shooting up the school for months. Why didn't anybody see it? Why didn't anyone report it? Well, somebody may have seen it. The problem is that when we see these signs, these subtle cues, sometimes not so subtle cues, that something is going on, we either don't know who to report these incidences to, there is no one central spot where they are reported, or once they are reported, there is no action plan associated. There's no protocol for what we do. We don't have anyone who's in charge or responsible. We don't have a behavioral threat team that works together to respond to someone who has increasing arguments with teachers, friends who are concerned but they don't want to tell anybody out loud because they don't want to be the one to rat somebody out. We see absenteeism increasing. Security reports there have been increased incidences in the hallways or the lunchrooms. We have a resource officer that notes that someone has increasing problems getting along with other people. But all of those notes go into different systems, different files, and they're not all seen together in the context of one person or one escalating group of behaviors. And posts on social media are a significant part of this. We also don't know who gets what key information. So when we do predictive or social intelligence, we do it independently of, but better when it is part of our behavioral risk threat assessment program. We call that BRSA, Behavioral Risk Threat Assessment. And predictive intelligence or monitoring walks through all of the phases of the Bertha program. In this way, if we are able to help you connect the dots, it's our hope that we can keep that weapon from coming into your building, on your campus, or even in your community. And we do this with 4 key preventative steps. The first one is assessing risk. And the first one is the best one for you because, as Jim Satterfield would say, and I'm sure you've heard him say, if you've attended these sessions in the past, it's our best price, which is no fee at all. We'll work with anyone. You just send us an email to webinars@firestorm.com. Say, I'm a friend of Scott Smith from RenWeb, and we will make sure to schedule a 1-hour high-level self-directed risk assessment with you. It's a great start to help you move forward in addressing the dangers of workplace violence in your organization. Afterward, a comprehensive, a more complex and comprehensive risk assessment should be done. And that should be done at least annually to ensure that you are identifying current threats as they emerge, new things emerge, new trends emerge, as a result of students changing, the student body changes, new employees come in and out of your school, administrative processes change, technology changes, and there are external environment changes as well. But we're going to get you started, so just reach out to us at webinars@firestorm.com, and I hope you know that. Maybe we can just help you out if you haven't done that yet. And I wanted to show you some examples of school threats that we do pick up. Now, there are a couple on the right that we just picked up those straight from news broadcasts. But the ones on the left are straight from social media posts. So we have a Facebook post on the left-hand side where I want you to notice we'll also pick up on emojis. So if there's an emoji of a gun or an emoji of a bomb or an emoji of a knife, we look at it. It could be in the context of dinner or someone going out to dinner or a banquet, or otherwise it could be next to a gun and indicate violence. So we look at it in context there as well. But this Facebook post says, all my life I've been bullied by the same kids. Well, tomorrow that ends. Maryvale's going to look ugly tomorrow with the emoji of a gun. And that goes on to say, bye-bye, Maryvale. I'm sick and tired of teachers. I'm just going to kill every single one of them. It's over for Maryvale. If we saw that related to your school, we would have established a communication and escalation protocol so that you would immediately be notified that there was a threat identified. Instead of you hoping to receive a call or a notice from a student who sees it or a parent who sees it on the student's phone, or worse yet, your local media calling you and saying, so what do you think of this threat that's going on over there at Maryvale? We have a school that we work with, and while the threat that came through was found to be unfounded, it was found to be a hoax, someone's email had gotten hacked into. And when their email got hacked into, they had within that access to a community group discussion board they were a member of in their local community. It wasn't a chamber of commerce, it was more like a neighborhood group. Then they hacked into that neighborhood group and from this person's account started posting bomb threats. The school closed down for one day while it was investigated because people were freaked out. They said, we're not sending our kids. They really were frightened, and they thought it was this very upstanding attorney in the neighborhood group because his was the account that was hacked. So we can let you know these things are going on before the media approaches you and then help you work through the protocol of how to manage the response. Once we've made you aware that something's going on, we then also let you know if there are trends that are evolving that you need to be aware of. We've been working with one school system in particular where about once a week I notify my contact that there is a new clown threat account. I am sure everybody on this call is really sick of this clown hoax, and it pops up and down, and actually has since about 2011. It just was particularly bad this year. And it's gone from, oh, I saw some clowns in the woods that are grabbing our kids, to I'm going to be on your campus shooting people at noon tomorrow. And it's creating havoc on campuses. Younger kids are really concerned and in fear. Parents didn't realize it was a hoax that was going on. And sometimes things that are a hoax actually become a cover for someone else to do illegal or dangerous activity. So we'll try to help you keep abreast of these things too when we're helping you monitor. So we assess your risk. We then we become aware of what's going on. We help you with trend monitoring. And you must also understand who's really in your building, right? So everybody says, well, you know, we do pre-employment screening. One of the things I think that's important is we want to make sure that your employee release includes or permits updated checks at your discretion. So anytime you want, you should be able to go ahead and review that person's employment record and make sure that everything's on the up and up. But sadly, you know, there are two ways that we become engaged and have become engaged with many of you on this call. And the first way is we're in a long-term retained relationship with you. We let you know when we see something hinky going on, or you call us when it's an emergency because one of your teachers was just found in a compromising position with compromising material, has been accused of some lewd or lascivious act. And that, sadly, is the more common reason we start to become engaged, and we don't want that to happen. We want you to be able to predict, plan, and perform so that you know who's in your building beforehand, so that you never have to worry about ABC or CBS News making a call and asking for your comment on the situation. Plus, we want to make sure that you have the protocol in place so that should a situation occur, you've already got the next steps in how to handle that crisis, not only written down and documented, but we've trained on it, we've planned, and we've practiced. Jim Satterfield you again have heard him speak to you all throughout the year, and there was a recent situation where there was a situation where a non-teaching employee who, for some reason, had free access to students who could actually pull them out of class, was found to have inappropriate material of a highly inappropriate nature. And the way it was found out was through a student's uncle who saw some of this imagery on the student's phone. The student, by the way, is 9 years old, and then alerted the principal of the school. And it came to light that the principal of the school had known of this situation, at least as far as having educators within the building report that something was going on. And for some reason, this principal did not act upon it. Now, as mandated reporters, I hope you're all sitting there in your chairs with your mouths open saying, how could that possibly happen? But it happened. Imagine if it happened in your school system. Imagine if someone had information and didn't report it appropriately. We don't want that to occur. We want to have the training and the testing in place. So if there are gaps in your program and your plan, we can find them through testing and rather than in an actual situation. And along with that, having a third party like Firestorm help you with your social media monitoring assures or helps so that if we do see something about a potential employee or an employee who's currently under investigation on social media, we're not going to include any information that's not relevant to the situation or the case at hand. And that protects you because you're not going to be accused of being discriminatory in any way because you haven't seen this other information. We had a situation exactly like that a few months back where we had a minor situation. We had to look at some previous social media posts from an educator because that was the point of the complaint. It turned out someone had shared something and didn't recognize that the person who shared it had originally grabbed it from a site that was adult themed. So when it was the share was reshared, there was a lot of sharing going on. The teacher didn't actually look to see what the originating source was, and one of the other teachers who received it was highly offended and reported it. And when we went in to look to see, okay, what was the original website and who shared it, we did learn some information about one of the teachers that wasn't germane to the issue at all, and in fact could have prejudiced the team responding, so it wasn't included. So I just want you to know that we're there to protect you on both ways, with information you need and with information you don't need that's kept to the side. And I just want you at any given time in your downtime to use Google or Bing or any other search engine and do a search for teacher accused or teacher arrested. And there are millions and millions of results. And the ones that I grabbed were only for the past 15 days or so. So we know it's a challenge, and we want to help you manage that challenge through predictive, actionable intelligence. There's nothing covert about the way we gather intelligence. We're aggregating open source intelligence and presenting it to you in a way that's manageable. We have one school account that over the period of a week, one of the streams we monitor for gets more than 30,000 mentions because it's a high-profile school with a really high-profile sports team. So it gets a lot of activity, and it gets a lot of activity from major newspapers, major media sites. It's all good, but it's not something that my contacts at the school have to see. They don't have to see every single mention. We, however, do. My analysts are trained and able to look at every single mention, aggregate them, exclude the information that's not important, and only deliver to our client those things that matter or need attention to. You know, this quote that I'm showing you at the top of this page is from 2011 from Robert Butler. Robert Butler was a shooter who revisited a school that he had attended and very sadly shot both a principal and an assistant principal, one of whom died. And this was the message that he had posted on social media. Everybody that used to know me, I'm sorry, but Omaha changed me and effed me up. And the school I attend is even worse. You're going to hear about the evil expletive I did. But that expletive school drove me to this. I want you guys to remember me for who I was before this. I know I greatly affected the lives of the families ruined, but I'm sorry. The earlier we can detect a problem, the less impact it's going to have, and we know that. Where there are threats and risks, we know how to identify those. And the thing is, you have to listen to the broad conversation and then look very focusedly at a target or a target of conversation, because people on social media talk, and when they talk on social media. This is something that we picked up in September of this year in a North Carolina school. Now, this account has been terminated. It's no longer on Twitter. But if you saw this with your school's name in it, I think you'd sit up and take notice. Now, the other thing is it was somewhat explained away. People started saying, well, we had a really big rivalry game coming up with Hickory Ridge, and we think Hickory Ridge just did it to spook our kids. The kids have to understand this is not a joke. This is prosecutable by law. The police in your community do not think this is a joke. It's not. As a matter of fact, if it can be considered a terroristic threat, and that takes it into a whole nother level. So we have to educate our communities, our parents, and our kids. It's not just, gee, we don't think that's funny, it's not a joke. There are very real, serious consequences to this type of posting. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about something called geospoofing. This is a picture of something that I see when I'm working within one of our applications. It's part of my dashboard. In this instance, I said, only show me things on Instagram and Twitter. And all the little icons light up, and then I can click into specific messages. Or I can change the view so I see the text of all the messages. But it really gives me a high-level view. You can see off to the right there's a baseball field. Further to the right there's a football field. But this is actually around the whole building. One of the things you're not seeing here right now are all the yik-yak icons. This school thought that they had isolated and geo-fenced out yik-yak. So they said, well, we don't have to worry about yik-yak on our campus because we've applied for the block, so people can't use it on our campus. Well, Hunter Park is a person that was recently arrested and prosecuted because he tricked people on a Missouri campus to think that he was on campus and was going to create a terroristic event. Then he went to another social media site, I think Reddit. I can't remember if it was Reddit or 4chan. And he said, my roommates and I spoofed our GPS and are trolling your yik-yak. It's fantastic. Hunter Park was arrested for making this terroristic threat because he used a fake GPS location spoofing service. There are hundreds of these on the App Store and on the Android store, and what they do is spoof your GPS. So even if we have a geofence set up on your school, it can show that, as it did with Hunter, that you're in the middle of campus when you're actually 100 miles away. And this is what he posted. He posted, I'm going to stand my ground tomorrow and shoot every black person I see. Well, Missouri is in the middle of some pretty stressful civil unrest. They didn't need this in the middle of an already stressful time. But more important to me is if you can spoof to appear at a location where you're not, you can spoof to appear elsewhere when you're actually threatening at that location. We've had situations where someone has made a bomb threat on school grounds, said I planted a bomb behind the boys' toilet, and when he was questioned, he said, no, you can check my Twitter account. I was actually at the airport going on a trip with my parents. Well, they found out that he had just spoofed his location, so it appeared that he wasn't there. How he thought he was going to get away with it, I don't know, but, you know, it happens. But digital swatting has evolved into these bomb and beheading threats that are made against school children. Did you ever think you'd have to talk to your students about beheading videos? And it has become a trend, especially now that we have these self-broadcasting social sites. So the simplest one, or the one you may know about, is Facebook Live. At any given time, you can go live on Facebook and show exactly what's going on in front of you. You can use Periscope. You can use Meerkat. There's also one called YouNow. And some of these are really, they're creepy, and kids actually get on and dare kids to do things live. Well, in addition to kids daring each other to do things, we have digital swatters who will report that there's a crime going on at that location, so that while someone is broadcasting live, the police come in and they actually broadcast that live. People get a rush out of that. But also you have pedophiles and others daring children as young as 7 and 8 to conduct themselves in an inappropriate manner. So that's a whole other session. We'll make sure to cover that in 2017. But some of these are pretty important that you're aware of them. Now, I want you to think about this. If you're in a group, think about it together. What do you think about this statement? When are we going to stop taking these threats seriously? Do we really think the bad guys are going to tell the authorities their plan before it happens? Oh, it's probably some kid who wanted to get out of his Friday afternoon test. This is a parent responding to a threat on an educational website. To me, this is exceptionally naive. Do we really think the bad guys are going to tell the authorities their plan before it happens? Yes, we do. We know that because we've seen it time and time again. At UC, a student who had been tossed from a study group who went back, who returned to the school and had a gun and did use it, had a manifesto on a Tumblr blog. In Oregon, a shooter's manifesto was posted partially on Facebook. Elliot Roger, accused of attacking random young women in front of a sorority in California, had posted multiple videos of his manifesto expressing his anger, his disdain for these young women at these sororities. All of these people broadcast their intentions long before the incidences happened. So how do we find those threats? Well, my team of analysts are constantly finding new things. So we're always looking at something new and saying, oh, we didn't know that existed. By the way, I am shocked at how many people are drinking and doing illicit drugs on the roof of your building. So if you don't have those cameras working up there, you probably should. But we use an ACT approach, and the acronym stands for First Awareness. So we become aware of issues, we put them into context, and then we apply our tools and training in order to help you become aware and more prepared. When we talk about awareness, we don't look for just sort of random things. When I do a demonstration for someone, I might say, okay, I'm going to use the broad term, bring a gun to school. But that gives me thousands and thousands of results on a weekly basis. When we work with a very specific school, we need to understand what terminology is specific to your geographic location, the way your kids talk in your school, what they refer to certain things as. Fighting and maybe have a specific slang term. There may be an Urban Dictionary term for the drugs in your specific school system that you're concerned with, et cetera, et cetera. So we really need to work with you to customize what it is we're looking for. And then we also need to understand what we need to exclude, so that if there are 20 other schools that have a similar or the same name as your school across the country, we're not pulling in irrelevant data, because that irrelevant data is only going to get in your way, get you frustrated, and then you're going to abandon your predictive intelligence program. By leveraging a third party, we do all of that sort of grunt work for you, so that we only deliver to you those things that are at a high or an elevated risk level. And here's an example of that. This was a Facebook post. It said, fine, I'm going to bring a gun to school Friday and kill all the girls. I'm serious. I'll do it at 9:30 Friday, the first hour. I have a 12-gauge shotgun, a 9mm pistol. I'll bring it and start killing everyone. That's a pretty scary message. And it was used in an extortion attempt by what turned out to be a young man trying to extort nude photos from a cheerleading team at a rival school. Now, I want to make a point about this that's important. And it's not necessarily related to the young woman who's responding, please stop it, don't do that. But the tools that we use allow us to look at risk, okay? And they allow us to look at broad conversations going on in social media. In addition to that, while we use these tools for predictive intelligence to prevent violence or other threats to you, they can also, and in fact many were developed for marketing originally, and you can still use them for messaging out, for engaging with people who are interested in your school brand, your sports, etc. The problem is some schools say we don't need a third party to help us with threat intelligence because our marketing team will catch that stuff and let us know. Well, that's not what your marketing team is trained for, or your marketing person. Your marketing team is trained to engage. They're trained to listen to, talk to the customer, the client, solve the problem. And the last thing we want to have happen in this kind of threat is engagement. So for those of you that are thinking, it's okay, our marketing department can alert us when we see a threat, they're not trained to do that. At the very least, we need to train them the difference in response to a threat or to a sales opportunity. Once they see something, how do we put it into context? For everyone on the call, read this line. I'm taking my gun to school. Yesterday, they tried to jump me. Well, is that a threat? Are you worried? What do you know? Well, let me tell you that these are the lyrics to a song called School by a rapper called Black Youngsta. And these lyrics are similar to ones that evolved a couple of years ago from a group called Amur. When Amur's song, Take a Gun to School, came out about 2.5 years ago, within 48 hours, the lyrics had been repeated 2 million times on social media. We had to alert all of our member schools, and many of you on this call may remember the webinar we did, where we told you there was a song, it was going to be trending, and you needed to understand the context in which it was coming. So we look to see, does it come from a movie, does it come from a book, does it come from some meme that's going on the internet? Is it something someone said on one of the late night shows? Did a comedian say it? Is it a real threat, or are they song lyrics, or both? After we have become aware of an issue, we've put it into context, we then apply our tools and our training to understanding what next steps are. Now, this is a simple dashboard in one of our applications. And when we sit down with you to develop your program, we want to understand the risks that affect you specifically in your organization, and then train you so that you also can use the tools along with us, so that you can look at your dashboard at any given time and see where all of the messaging is coming from. Is it coming from Twitter? Have we customized RSS feeds for you? Are there risks on Reddit and 4chan? Are there news articles about your school? And you can filter the data in a variety of ways to help you better manage information as it flows into and out of your school. Here's an example of a Facebook post that really created a disruption for a school. 230 students stayed home because they were afraid. They were afraid because of posts on Facebook that threatened to create racial tension. There were rumors that somebody was going to bring a gun to school. And I think probably everyone on this call has experienced something like this. So not only can we use geolocation services to put a fence right around your school and let you know if something is trending in your area, but we can let you know if there's something that seems to be specific to your region, to your state. In this case, the darker the color, the higher concentration of something going on related to the keyword we were looking for at this period in time. And it seemed to be that Lynchburg was the nexus, with the rest of it going on coming out of Roanoke. So these kinds of tools can really help you understand, is this something I need to talk to my fellow schools with? You know, are there other RenWeb schools that I can talk to and see if they're having the same issues in their region or their area? Someone like Scott can help you understand your next steps, especially when it comes to communicating through some of their great tools. Now, when we're talking about this, we want to talk about this under the context of behaviors of concern. And as Jim Satterfield has told you throughout the year, we have a broader program. It's the Behavioral Risk Threat Assessment Program, or BRSA. It's the big sister to ALICE. And we want to help you understand that we know the difference between what threatening behavior is, or a behavior of concern. So we know threatening behavior. It's a threat. It's bullying. It's cyberbullying. It's stalking. It's conditional threats. You know, if you don't change my study hall to another period, I'm going to come back and set fire to the cafeteria. Or they're veiled or indirect threats. Behaviors of concern aren't quite so clear. And this is where social media really helps. And we're not just talking about Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. We're talking about blogs, journaling. So in the past, that journal was kept, you know, in a black and white notebook under somebody's mattress. Now it's on Tumblr. We can go read it if we know what to look for. And in that, we'll see escalating blaming of others, or identifying others for whom all of their problems flow. Veiled or indirect threats, obsessions with police or military or other shooters or people who committed acts of violence against schools. Sadly, there is a cult of Columbine devotees, and shooters in Canada were found to actually have a tribute site to the Columbine shooters on Tumblr, and even though we have made efforts to get it taken down, 2 years later it is still live. It's very disconcerting. But that's what we find, and those are behaviors of concern, and they fall under just one of the quadrants we look at when we look at escalating behaviors of concern. So through all of these, family, social, psychological, all of these behaviors, this type of monitoring exists in order to help you make sure that that weapon or that situation never comes to your campus. You know, we did another survey with folks just like you. Some of you may have participated. And we asked, do you currently use external intelligence to identify potential threats? And a really high percentage, more than half, either didn't know or said absolutely no. And we really want to change that number. For all of you on this call today, if you were to go wander over to Facebook after this call or Twitter, and you saw a direct threat against the school, I'm going to take a gun to school tomorrow and I'm going to go shoot up blah, blah, blah school, would you know what to do with that information? Would you be able to escalate it somewhere where you knew some action would be taken? It is Firestorm's goal to take you from this quadrant, where everything is always a surprise to you, where responses and processes are developed on the fly, just in reaction to a situation, through the reactive and pre-action phases into a culture of strategic action and strategic preparedness. In stage 4, maturity, you have a clear playbook for major crisis types, and you have a clear decision-making matrix. And all through a process, information may surprise you. Something I may deliver to you that's going on may be a shock to you, but you will know how to respond to it because you have the critical decision support you need. So even if the circumstance is a surprise, your response to it will not be. In closing today, I'd just like to remind you that the greatest obstacle to discovery is not ignorance. It is the illusion of knowledge. There's always something new to learn. We'd like you to learn it with us. We're giving you easy access to the brief from today's session on Firestorm.com under Resources. It usually takes about 48 hours to transcribe the session and post it for you. It will be under Brief, Firestorm.com Brief, under the Resources section of our website. You can also visit our YouTube channel by tomorrow. The recording of this session should be up. And we'd like very much to thank our partners at RenWeb. We've had a wonderful year with you. We're looking forward to a great 2017. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at webinars@firestorm.com at our 800 number or through our website. Until next time, I'd like to say thank you very much for attending today. If you have any questions, reach out to us. And at this point, this will end our session for today. Thank you, and have a great day.